Hey guys, welcome to the race, and today we are racing at the 24-hour layout of Daytona Ring. We will be doing a 10-lap race around the circuit with high fuel and tyre wear. Let's see how we go as we prepare to start the race in P1 with Stolen Doritos in second, Cobber in third, Ranger fourth, and it's generally a race between the four of us as well as one other driver, which we'll see later on. As we come into turn one, taking it nice and easy, we don't need to really push ourselves here, there's no threat of anyone overtaking us here. As we all get through the first corner pretty much unscathed, as we come up to the first hairpin of the race, we can see everyone trailing behind, all 20 cars still in the race at this point. No one's rage quitted after turn one, which is always nice. Getting a good exit using my Kamehameha of the Dragon Ball Z livery as we come down the left kink here before we come into the second hairpin of this race. With Stolen Doritos and Cobber right up my clacker, we see that this is going to be quite a difficult race. As we see in the background, all the cars coming around the corner. Oh, there's a crash in the background as we go on to the start of the ring. Got to keep traction there, it's very bumpy there, very easy to make a mistake, but you've got to make sure you keep it planted and keep it going. As we come round the first left-hander of the ring, Stolen Doritos and Cobber right up behind me with Ranger not too far off. As we transition to the cockpit cam for the first time, you can see at the bottom right, Stolen Doritos going to the left, going up the inside. I see him coming as I lift off early, let him have the position, and also Cobber comes through, I think. No, he doesn't. Cobber right up behind me, give me a little kiss up the arse there, as we go up to the second left-hander of the lap one. So I told Stolen Doritos before this race, save a bit of fuel mate, stop pitting on lap 5, which he kept doing in that car. And he does save a bit more fuel this race, which is why we easily catch him up here as we approach the end of lap 1. It's P2 after starting P1, which is kind of part of the plan. I'm in minimum fuel, as you can see I'm doing 275, struggling to speed up. Because I'm in this draft, I'm using fuel mode 6, which is the lowest. Lifting off before the braking point, saving even more fuel. Keeping it nice and slow, nice slow corner. I'm in second gear for some reason. As we power out the corner, and we come up to the hairpin right. As we brake a little bit late here, we give Stolen Doritos a little nudge. Doesn't really compromise this race, literally nothing happens here. But Gran Turismo didn't agree with me here, so they decided to slap me with a 2-second penalty. And to add insult to injury, I go down to P3. I was the only one who suffered from that incident and got a 2-second penalty to go with it as well, as those two collide coming to the second hairpin. And we continue to ride on board with ourselves. See at the bottom right, you see Ranger still right up behind me. I'm going to be a sitting duck for him as we approach the penalty zone, which is just before the start-finish line. As we come out into the ring, decent lap time, but obviously that's on the first lap as we are still with a 2-second penalty and we've lost 2 places within the space of a lap. As we approach the bus stop chicane for the second time, and you can see in the distance my 2-second penalty marker above my name, which I just love to see. Come through the bus stop chicane nice and neatly as the 4 of us come through, but as you can see, Ranger has a moment, must have crashed into the barriers, and it's now Wicked who has moved up into 4th place with Ranger down now in 6th. Now as you can see here, I'm going to be forced to decelerate at the penalty line, as these guys are going to get a nice little gap on me here, unfortunately, as I forcibly brake. And now we're back in it, back down all the way down to 2nd gear, pushing along as 4th place comes up on my right hand side and clears me as we start lap 3. Now into the braking zone. After going so slow you don't know where to brake, so I'm braking way too early here. Kind of got no idea what I'm doing here as we start to chase back for our podium place. A little bit over the shop in my head now, I'm a bit annoyed, frustrated, as we start to chase down the leaders, hopefully catching up whilst at the same time saving fuel. Go through the kink and come up to the hairpin right, which is one of the most confusing corners because it starts off very light and then gets tighter and tighter and then opens up on the exit. So it's not a straight driving line for that corner, and it's one of the corners that catches myself out and many others out. You can't really keep left for that corner, you kind of got to take a central line, otherwise you'll run wide as the corner tightens. And as I say that, we come back onto the ring now, and as we move up through the order of the laps, we tend to catch up to the car ahead. The Hurricane is a quick car, but the Mazda here is built very quickly, able to top out about 282 kph by the end of the start-finish straight. As we come to the bus stop chicane, we have a really good line through here, taking it easy, no need to rush. We know full well that we're going to sit, as we nearly lose it on the exit. As I was saying, we're staying in this guy's draft, we're going to save fuel, and we're going to keep pushing through. Unfortunately, at the same time, he's a lot slower than Cobber and Doritos up in P1 and P2. Probably about between half a second and a second lap. So even though I'm saving fuel and I'm keeping behind him, I'm losing time each lap. As we start lap 4, we transition back to the overview of the track, as we see a nice view of us going into turn 1 here, staying right behind him. As you can see, the two just slightly pulling away as I go up to 3rd gear. As you can see, 5th place and 6th place not too far behind us. Not really in a place to give us any trouble, but close enough that if one of us makes another mistake, it is pretty much going to swallow us up and lose another 2 places, pushing us down into 6th place. As we come down into the left kink of the lap, we're a bit quicker on our personal best lap time, but not as fast as the fastest lap. We both go a bit wide here, which kind of compromises us for the entry, but allows us a good exit. I get a better exit here, and you see me get really close into this left-hander. But once again, I'm not in any mood to overtake him, as he flashes his lights at us. We're just going for a nice exit, nice and safe. We're not using fuel, we're short shifting every gear, we're not letting it flash, we're short shifting just before we max out the gear to save even more fuel. As we come down onto the back straight, once again approaching the bus stop chicane. As we go on first person camera, we see us closing out, and you see the throttle lift off just before we start braking. Now, just save a bit more fuel. We're probably in fuel mode 6 before we even approach that corner. Put it up to fuel mix 1 or 2 and get the power down whilst also short shifting, which I don't think we'll do this time around. As we move up into the end of lap 4, as we approach lap 5, we're really starting to close up on Wicked here. Not in any position to overtake him, unfortunately. As we've reached lap 5, which is usually the common pitting lap for most of the cars on the grid, except for the Mazda, which is what I am driving. Doritos and Cobber pulling away. Cobber ahead of Doritos now. Cobber isn't the faster car of the two of them. I believe he's in the Audi R8, but it goes to a lot more fuel. As you get a nice view of this, we see the top 6 drivers all into view here. As the front 2 disappear, you see on the left-hand side, 5th and 6th approach. They look like they're catching us up a bit here, but they are too far back to really make an impact on us at this point in the race. As we come down to the second hairpin, right behind Wick, as we go into first place, we have a look on the inside. We're just a bit too far back, and he closes off here. So we come out the exit, full beans, as he goes a bit wide here. Do I go for an overtake here? I've got the option. I choose not to. I still want to save a bit of fuel. I'm sitting about 45-40% at this point. We're going to be using about another 7-8% before the lap finishes, and we don't want to pit this lap. So once more, we come down the back straight, approaching the bus stop chicane. He takes a wide line here, which a lot of people do, and I'm yet to understand why they do it, due to the fact that you're taking a longer line to the next corner. You might have high speed by the end of it, but you're going to take a longer time to get there. As we take a nice line through here, rub the curves just the right amount, get on the straighten up, power out the exit, all the power down so we can stay in the slipstream so we can save more fuel once we get to the top end speed. As we come down to the end of lap 5, we have to start thinking who's pitting and who's not pitting, as we see P1 pit with 1 litre of fuel left, which means he was very close to running out there. So he's going to have a long pit stop, as well as Wicked pits now with 7 litres left. A bit more fuel, but that's a second. He's probably a second extra worth of fuel he's going to have to put in over Cobber as we move up into P2 of lap 6 of 10. It's quite an interesting tactic here. Now, because I'm so far back and I've had that penalty, I've had to think, alright, how am I going to, challenge for the win this race? I could under fuel, but that means I'm going to be a sitting duck on the straights. my only option here is, if I choose to do it, is to not change my tyres. Stay on my 6-lap-old tyres till lap 10 and hope I underfuel enough to be in front and hold the lead, knowing full well that they are going to be able to easily overtake me at this point in the race. If they overtake me with a higher fuel load, I won't be able to attack the back because I just don't have the fuel or the grip to really challenge them. So I'm really trying to figure it out right now as I'm going for a push lap on my last lap, as I'm 6/10 up on my personal best, using all the fuel trying to close down Doritos as much as I can because I'm pitting this lap no matter what, as I don't have enough fuel reserved for one more lap of pitting. So you have a nice transition coming into the back straight. Not really too much to say at this point as we come into the bus stop chicane, still miles behind the car. I think we're about 4 seconds behind at this point. Coming out of the bus stop chicane, getting a nice exit, getting on the power. Not worrying about short shifting too much here. Short shifted a tiny bit here as we go back to cockpit cam and we start to really think about our choice here. And it's at this point where I'm like, I'm going to gain 5 or 6 seconds. He's on 1% fuel. I've got about 15% fuel. And I'm like, alright, we're not changing our tyres. It was a late call because for some reason they brought tyres out. And as Lightning McQueen was there, no tyres, just gas. And just like in the movie, they looked at me quite funny as they gave my timing a red light to say they don't approve this tactic. As we've got up to 76 litres of fuel, we want to use about 18 litres a lap as we come out the pits in P1. We're now in the lead with Cobber and Doritos a few seconds behind me. Now it's at this point in the race where it's like, right, I've got enough fuel to go maximum attack, and I'm going to have to do that this entire race as we have to go for a real push to keep them away from us, because if they catches me up, it's pretty much game over. So as you see us come around the right-hander, our front brakes heat up a lot more than the rears because we've got a front brake bias. As you can see right behind me there is Cobber and Doritos. Cobber is in the Ferrari 458 Italia, not the Audi R8 as I said earlier. And as you can see, there's not much in it. It's probably opposite to what it was before I pitted. So I think it's just under 3 seconds gap at this point. So I'm really starting to panic. I don't need a fuel save, which is good, as we should transition into helmet cam now as we come on up, continue our lap, come into the bus stop chicane, trying to keep it as well maintained as possible, power down at the exit. We have to nail that every time because we are better on the straights than the other two, and we need to use as much of that as possible for the remaining 3 laps of this race. Continue to ride on board, you just keep an eye on the track map at the bottom right. You will start to see Cobber and Broken Doritos catch me up and appear on that, and you can kind of get a good idea of how close they are as Doritos and Cobber, if you saw on the left hand side, swap positions coming into turn 1. I think they swapped again just then. Yeah, they must be side by side coming to this braking zone. As you see them at the bottom right now up here. They are side by side as I nearly go side to side with the freaking wall. Goodness me. As we continue to push with 8-lap-old tyres that are really starting to show the edges. There's a lot of understeer coming out of that corner there. As we start to panic. I'm starting to get in my own head here, and you might see these next few corners that I really take it a lot easier. Because I'm like, oh dear, my tyres are starting to go. Bono, my tyres are gone. As we come around the second hairpin, I think we short shift quite early in the second. Yep, short shifted massively because I just did not want to take the chance after that moment at turn 1. And once again, keep a tight line there. Power on the exit. Not much of a short shift there, so I think I've got my confidence back at this point, as I'm just slightly faster than my personal best. But with these 8-lap-old tyres and the guys behind me on 1- and 2-lap-old tyres, I'm quite a sitting duck. As you can see, they're quite comfortably in my track map at the bottom right now. As we come down to the bus stop chicane, which I've had many moments at this chicane, most of the time when I'm leading and on lap 10, so that was always a fun experience. Copped a lot of flack for that. Choked it on the last lap. It felt like the car's physics was changing every fucking race at that point. As we come down the left-hander before lap 9, they are well in view now. I can't have any moments now, otherwise they will have the chance to overtake me here. As we come to the start-finish line, those two side by side, who will lead as Doritos takes the position of P2 for the moment as they come into turn 1. They'll take a nice simple line. As it looks like Cobber holds the position into turn 1, as you'll see them right now. Side by side as Doritos gets the exit and moves back up into P2. As we ride back on board with me, we've got 2 more laps to go, and looking at the track map right behind, and even my rear view camera at the bottom right, they are right as we nearly lose it for the second time in as many laps. That has not helped me at all, as they've probably gained another half second on me with that mistake as we break into the second hairpin. See them getting on my real pressure right now as we short shift out the corner here, not wanting to take the chance as my confidence has gone down again after making that little moment mistake. As we come out of the technical section of the course for the second last time this race, as we transition back to the side cameras, the trackside cameras, we see that they are quite close to me now. I don't know if I'm going to be able to hold them off here. We've got 1 lap to go. They've got the advantage of grip compared to me. That's all they've got. I don't have to worry about fuel. In fact, I've overfueled if anything, as Doritos and Cobber sit right behind me, coming out of the horseshoe, the bus stop chicane. As we come around the banking for the second last time this race, with Doritos right behind me, I'm maximum attack here, as I do not even bother short shifting anymore, as I've got plenty of fuel and I don't need to worry about the traction of the car at this speed. As we ride on board into turn 1, looking at the camera at the bottom right, he's right there. I have to take a defensive line here to prevent him coming in. As we go around the left-hander, keeping it nice and smooth, not taking any chances. Sending it, slightly short shifting through the corner there. As I see his headlights, I've got to go defensive here. I'm slightly central on the course, which force him out of that attack there. Very slow on the exit and then power down because I know I've got a good first drive. And Doritos right up behind me as we come up to the second hairpin of the internal section of the track. I've got to be very careful. I take a defensive line, not taking any chance of him diving, quite central on the driving line, which has compromised me on the exit as we get a nice view of my brakes heating up here. As we come up to the left-hander before the back straight, taking quite a central line to prevent him diving up the inside of me. As we come onto the back straight for the final time this race, with Doritos less than a car's length behind me and Cobber ready to pounce at the chance if one of us makes a mistake. As we come round the big left-hander, I hold the low ground as best I can, as Doritos is right behind me ready to pounce. As we transition to onboard camera, you see him go to the right, and he must have nudged me or something, or lost a bit of time as he backs out, and I pull away a little bit here. Got the inside line, so he can't dive up the inside of me here, as we get a nice enough exit out the final bus stop for the race. He's right behind me now. It's neck and neck as he goes wide along the outside of me, coming around the final corner. He must have done it too early, as he must lift off, or doesn't have enough down. There's too much downforce as he gets behind me one more time and pulls out aside me, going quicker than me as we come side by side over the finish line. And the winner is Redeemer X2. No tyre change, just fuel. Super defensive driving on the final lap of the race. I would not have been able to do that for one more lap. And it was a really good showing from Doritos and Cobber, as we get a nice satisfying win with no tyre change.